In the last Espresso Shot episode, I encouraged you to check out your show notes. And in this episode, I'm actually going to encourage you to audit your podcast titles. Let's get right into it. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe, where we're serving up everything you need to know about podcasting, from tips, stories, and strategies for podcasters from podcasters. I'm your host, Hayleigh Hayhurst, the founder of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast agency helping business owners, creatives, and thought leaders launch and grow their shows. Whether you're just starting out or want to take your podcast to the next level, this is the place for you. Each week, we'll dive into practical tips, actionable strategies, and of course, stories from other podcasters so that you can build up a podcast that you love and that works for your business. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe. Welcome back to another Espresso Shot episode. My name is Hayleigh Hayhurst, and here in the Podcast Cafe, I share quick shots of podcast strategy every single week. So in this episode, we're talking about why your podcast episodes aren't getting clicks and how you can fix that so more people are actually hitting play. First, I want to break down the mistake that I see with the podcast titles. Podcast titles are an art. So if you're not getting clicks on it, it's okay. This is how you can get better at it. Because truly, it is something that you have to practice to really see what works best. But here's what I do that works really well. Here's some of the mistakes that I see that's probably killing your titles. Number one is they're too vague. So if your podcast is like, let's talk about podcasting, that's pretty vague. Okay, tells me nothing. Number two is they might be too long. People should be able to read your titles in one quick glance. So if it's like a conversation with Hayleigh Hayhurst, a podcast marketing expert here to tell us about blah, 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 right? That's a long title. You have to make it punchy. Number three is there's no hook on it. We don't want it too long. We also don't want it too short. We don't want it too vague. We want it to be interesting. We want people to catch people's eye and they click on it. Here's what I like to think about. Your podcast title is basically an ad for your episode. In podcast apps, social media, and even Google, the title is what people see first. And sometimes it's the only thing people see. So you want to make sure it's a good title. You want people to think, oh, that sounds like it's for me. Or, oh, I need that answer. Or, okay, I'm curious. I need to listen to this episode. This is how you actually get people to click and then listen. So if your podcast titles are not doing that, here's my advice to fix them. I have 5 things for you, and I'm going to go through them really quick, and then I'll go in deeper. So number 1 is lead with the benefit. Number 2 is use clear, searchable words. Number 3 is add curiosity. Number 4 is test formats. And number 5 is cut the fluff. Okay, so let's go into what exactly these mean and how you can make it work more for your business through your podcast. And how you can make it work more for your podcast. Okay, number 1 is, like I said, lead with the benefit. Tell the person what they're going to get. It takes a lot for someone who it's their first impression of you to actually spend an hour with you or 45 minutes or 30 minutes, right? They want to know, okay, what am I going to get for this time? So lead with the benefit of what they're going to get. Number 2 is use clear, searchable words. What I want you to do now is get in the mind of your listener, your ideal listener. So when I was training for a marathon, I was like, how the F am I going to do this? So things I was searching was like marathon nutrition or how to run without hating my life. No, I'm just kidding. But like things like that were things that I was searching. And even now today, like, let's see, what was I looking up recently? Oh, I was looking up how to like build out your offer a little bit more, like support networks, how that can work. You know, in the past, I've also listened to a lot of marketing podcasts and like marketing without social media. At different phases of my business, I look up different things. So think like the listener that you're speaking to and make those keywords relevant for them and put those in the title. Okay, the third one is add curiosity. So without making it clickbaity, you want to add curiosity. So just like this title, why your podcast titles aren't working, makes you think, am I doing what's not working? But it's not like you're actually going to get the answer. It's not like, you know, I did this and made $1 million. Like, that's clickbait, because it's never just one thing that makes you $1 million. You know what I mean? Okay, so add curiosity without being clickbaity. Think about how that could work for you and your podcast. And then my fourth tip is like test out formats. So sometimes things I'll do is like how to ... like how to increase your podcast downloads in 3 steps, or the secret to a seamless podcast launch, or, you know, just like this one, like mistakes you're making. So think about it for your business. Like if you are a wellness practitioner, think about like how to increase your protein without going carnivore diet, or think about like the secret to a balanced diet or a balanced plate, or 3 mistakes you're making when meal prepping. Those would be formats that you could test out. You know, they're not clickbaity, but they are making people curious about what's going to be in the episode and if they're doing it too. For guest episodes, I also do this. You can look back at like my titles, or, you know, I can also tailor this to you. If you send me a message, I can review your podcast titles and give you like some feedback. Just send me a message on Instagram and I'll send you a voice message back with what I'm finding. So yeah, just do that. We'll customize it. And then number 5 is cut the fluff of the podcast titles. Like I said, we don't want them too long. So just shorter is almost always better without being too short. And I put this with the caveat of, you know, Joe Rogan just puts his podcast guest name. But again, I said that those names carry SEO where other names don't. So while it works for him, that's okay. Like, you know, Taylor Swift was just on the Kelsey Brothers podcast. Like, they could literally just name it Taylor Swift and get millions of listens. But if they interviewed, I don't know, Joe Schmo down the street, they're not going to get the same amount of listens, because that name doesn't carry the same SEO and no, like, the same know, like, and trust that Taylor Swift's name does. So keep that in mind. One thing that you could do here is write out a couple versions of your titles and then pick the one that makes you most want to click. Again, just like I said in the last episode with your show notes, if you haven't been doing your titles like this, I encourage you to go back, change things, and see how the download numbers increase, because I promise you they will. So make those changes. This is going to help a ton in helping your podcast episodes get found more. So if your titles are not pulling people in, your downloads will almost always feel stuck. Take that extra 5 minutes to make them feel clickable, irresistible, and I promise you, you will see the difference, because better titles last longer. People can find your episodes for years to come if your titles are done correctly. Thank you so much for joining me in the Podcast Cafe. I hope you're leaving with fresh ideas and inspiration to take your podcast to the next level. Remember, podcasting is a journey and you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help you every step of the way. Let's connect. Be sure you follow me on Instagram at Espresso Podcast Production, or visit espressopodcastproduction.com for more tips, resources, and behind the scenes insights. I'd love to hear about your podcasting journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling extra generous, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more podcasters just like you find the show. Until next time, grab your coffee, keep creating, and I'll see you back here in the Podcast Cafe.